Gavin Newsom, somebody tapped him on the shoulder and said, Gavin, your party is crazy. They're left-wing lunatics. You would never be nominated. You're polling 4%. So the correct position, Gavin, is to sound crazy like they are. During the riots, he did a French Laundry 2.0. He was up in Napa, where he seems to feel most comfortable, doing a wine tasting while people were, I don't know, destroying federal property, attacking the police, setting cars on fire, looting. And after he said that this didn't exist and that Donald Trump had overreacted and prompted this by nationalizing the California Guard.
And he is now the Democratic candidate to be mayor in New York. And his agenda, just so our audience knows a few things. He wants $65 million for gender affirming care. He wants to emasculate the NYPD. He wants to drive the rich from New York and globalize the Intifada. And he wants the government to run grocery stores.
He makes Eric Adams look like Lincoln, you know what I mean? So he's a complete idiot. He makes Bill de Blasio look normal.
Welcome back to Expert Playback. Victor Davis Hanson discusses the newest Democrat litmus test. If the base sounds extreme, triple down on failed policies. When Gavin Newsom retreats to wine country while his state burns, and a New York mayoral candidate promises $65 million for gender care, while the city hemorrhages taxpayers, we're seeing something unprecedented, the liberal city center collapsing. When your coalition depends on taxing the wealthy but drives them away, you're left with expensive promises and a shrinking base to fund them.
So believe me, I spoke twice in Naples, and then I went back to Palm Beach, and then I went again this spring. And housing prices have quadrupled. And people are going to say, you know, I'm already paying in New York State and New York City taxes somewhere around 16%, plus 38% federal. And I'm not going to stay here when I can go to Florida and pay zero. And if you've got a $5 million income, you could save you $500,000, $600,000 a year. And that's what's happening. They're all going to leave. So all these cities are going to be 70 or 80% minority, and they're going to be run by left-wing minorities. And I don't know what's going to happen to them, but you're not going to have a Los Angeles or a Portland or a Seattle or a Minneapolis or a Chicago or a Washington, D.C. or a New York as a functional city anymore.
Here's the mathematical reality behind Victor's Palm Beach observations. When high earners can save half their income by crossing state lines, they don't just complain, they relocate. That 16% state tax becomes zero in Florida, and suddenly a $2 million salary keeps an extra $320,000. Multiply that across thousands of professionals, and you're watching the tax base that funds everything, schools, infrastructure, social services, simply evaporate. What remains is a shrinking core trying to fund expanding promises, an equation with only one possible ending. The middle class isn't just leaving, they're taking the revenue that makes progressive governance possible.
These cities are going to be, I don't know what's going to happen to them, but I know that if you talk to middle class, white, black, Hispanics, and you say, do you go down to downtown LA? Oh, no. Do you go to downtown San Francisco? No, I don't want to go there. Do you go into downtown? You want to go to downtown New York? No. Do you want to go downtown Washington? Nope, they don't. They do not. You like to get on the BART? You want to go to the subway? Nope. It doesn't matter if that's real fear or perceived or exaggerate, just the impression that you get. Nobody wants to get anywhere near these places that are run by these types of politicians. Why would the black community elect Mayor Johnson when he defunded the police and he didn't protect them and he let all these illegal aliens take over their social services? I guess the answer is because he's black. Why is Karen Bass even walking around as a legitimate official after what she did with the fires? Well, I guess there's hardly only 3% of Los Angeles is black. I suppose the Hispanic population thought that she was very left-wing and she was good for something, but she hurt them terribly by letting in all of these illegal aliens and spending billions of dollars on people who were not U.S. citizens. They wanted people to come in, and they had 2 or 3 criteria. You had to be poor. You had to be non-white. You couldn't have a high school diploma. You could have no capital, and we're not going to give you civic education, and we do not want you to rapidly integrate, assimilate, associate. We want you to go into a tribal enclave and stay there, and then you get your spokesman for the Chicano, the black, this caucus, that caucus, and you were constituent. And you will be the new demography that will get us elected because our message is too far left and crazy that the traditional demography would win with it. And that's what they've done.
Victor's downtown litmus test reveals the human cost of urban decay. When middle-class families of every background say, "We don't go downtown anymore," you're witnessing the death of civic life. The political response, defunding police while importing dependent populations, creates a feedback loop of dysfunction. But here's the deeper game. Democrats wanted these tribal enclaves, parking immigrants in separate communities to harvest reliable votes. The strategy worked until the cost-benefit analysis flipped. When your own voters won't walk your streets, the model is already broken.
Their only challenge is that when you bring in people from all of these places, especially Hispanics and Catholic, there is an ingredient there of conservatism. And when they start to work hard and plug into the middle class trajectories, and they start to see, they reach a magic point where all of a sudden they go home, and I've talked to them. The money that grandma gets in food stamps, my son gets in free college, the money that we get in free health care, all my granddaughters and grandsons that were born free, that's not as much as I pay in taxes now. I pay 12, 13%. I pay 12% sales tax. I'm paying almost over $1 in gasoline tax. This is not worth it. I can't buy a house if I can't buy insurance. And so that cost to benefit analysis is starting to favor the middle class conservative viewpoint. And when that happens, they'll close the border because the left has no morality, no principles. It's all transactional power acquisition. Now, I think what you're going to see is it's going to be an enclave party. It's going to be 4 or 5 million people around Chicago, 4 or 5 million people in Washington, 6 or 7 million in New York, 7 or 8 in Los Angeles, 1 million or 2 in San Francisco. They're going to be enclaves of left-wing lunacy, and it's not going to work.
Victor's cost-benefit analysis points to a fundamental political realignment. When yesterday's progressive becomes today's overtaxed homeowner, the transactional bargain collapses. The immigrant who once reliably voted Democratic starts asking why their neighborhood isn't safe, why their taxes keep rising, why they're paying more and getting less. That's when the open border advocates finally close the gates, not from ideology, but from arithmetic. Political coalitions built on endless expansion eventually meet the limits of what taxpayers will fund.
So whatever Donald Trump has done to them, and maybe that will be his lasting legacy, he had the ability to expose what used to be Democrats as absolutely unhinged and nihilistic, and I don't think anybody wants any part of them.
If you found this breakdown helpful, hit that like button so more people see it. And if you want more sharp takes on global power plays, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.